Hi there. It's been a while. I'm back. I've been rearranging and straightening out my new digs. I wanted to read you something today from it's an excerpt from a little thing I'm working on, and it's called Imagination School. When I was at UTA part-time with a degree, working for a degree in education and Spanish language, I was making good grades and I was enjoying it so much. But the income just wasn't what we needed, so my lack of income was standing out. So I decided to get a part-time job. I got out the trusty old phone book. Here's a history lesson. There used to be these big books, and they had businesses and people listed, and you could look for anything you needed. Get their address, phone number, everything. Now we just Google, but the phone books were free. So I turned to the school section in the Yellow Pages. That's what I like to do, teach. And that sounded like a good part-time gig. There are hundreds of schools listed in that phone book, maybe thousands. Which one do I choose? When I read the name Imagination School, I knew that was just too great a name to pass up. So I called and talked to the director of the little church-operated preschool. I simply asked if they needed part-time help. And no was the reply. Are you sure you don't need a substitute so that your staff can take vacations, have sick time, etc.? I asked. Oh, she replied. I never thought of that. So I made an appointment for an interview. And the next day I met with the director and the pastor. And then the next day I was called in to sub for that very director who also taught a class. And just like that, I became an employee, a teacher for Imagination School. The director took a trip to London and called in later to say she was staying there and could I take her class permanently. What? Wow. And so I did. And I tell people looking for work to this day, I tell my grandchildren like I told my son, just make yourself known. Make your skills needed. Just ask. Tell them they need you. Make a spot for yourself. I loved that little school, and I quickly made my way up to lead teacher and then center director. We went through changes. The pastor left for another church. The acting director quit. A new pastor came in. Yet I stayed for 2 years. We put on another program, too, for the parents during my time there. It was based on a play about how the evergreen tree kept its leaves. So cute a play. Even the 2-year-old students had parts as little birdies, dancing to Rockin' Robin. Doot, doot. Or rather, they watched as I danced off stage, trying to convince them to boogie. But those tiny tweets weren't having it. The parents loved that part especially, talking afterwards of Miss Linda's performance. Oh well, I do what I can to entertain. I'm still in contact with one of the teachers there, and I ran into one student's mom a few years ago. Doug's mother says he is now a doctor. This little 5-year-old, whom I taught kindergarten skills to and prepared for big school, is now saving lives. That puts a topper on my career. I view his success as mine as well. And maybe that's too much ego, but there you have it. Another student, Tabby, with whom I've remained friends, is now a successful actress and playwright in New York. Daniel, another kiddo, teaches Latin in a private academy. My students have made me so proud. I only left Imagination School when they lost funding and closed. Seems I've gone down with the ship a number of times. The new pastor tried to get me to move on before the final days, but I needed to have closure on this chapter, and I refused to go. I had called my former Head Start supervisor and mentor, and she was making a spot for me, so my future was secure. I could not leave Imagination School without knowing that my kiddos' futures were in place also. All the students everywhere that I've had the pleasure to know, thank you and peace.